Hi, I'm Dina Stewart.
And I'm Stuart Stewart.
And we're syndicatednews.net, alive on South Beach. A show about a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
In this episode, we're going to show you 3 people who have passion about what they do. And the connection between the 3 is they all entertain us in different ways. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and watch Alive on South Beach. I'm sitting here with Steve Mikes, who is one of the foremost sitar players in the United States. How did you get involved with the sitar? That's not, something that every all-American kid, just goes to the store, picks up and plays.
Back in the 60s, when I was talking about it, was more common, and many kids had an interest in it, especially if you were growing up as a guitar player. I think any guitar player who grew up in the 60s had a dream of wanting to at least try to play the sitar.
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with it, so I had to just actually go ahead and do it.
Could you briefly explain what the instrument is all about?
Well, of course, it originates from North India. It goes back about 300 years. The music itself that it plays goes back about 3,000 years. And many people in this country were first exposed to the instrument through the Beatles, and then, of course, Ravi Shankar, who you mentioned. That's how I first found it. And it's a rather complex instrument with a lot of strings, 19 strings in 3 different parts. I'll give you a quick tour if you'd like. It's got a set of strings that run underneath the frets called the sympathetic strings. It's got 4 main playing strings that play the melody on top. And it's got a set of strings that are on the top side of the neck called the Chikari strings, which are for rhythmic purpose.
When you play with a larger group like a symphony orchestra, do you have to create your own arrangement, or does whoever's conducting say, this is the sitar part?
That's a very good question, because the system of music for the sitar is completely different from Western music. The notation is different, the theory is different. We don't have chords and keys or anything that corresponds to what they would score for a Western orchestra. So when they do a piece, they have to present it to me, and I translate it, so to speak, into Indian musical form, and I have to compose what's necessary.
I know you've appeared in concerts all over the world, and what was your big moment for you in appearing with, and who did you appear with that was really something that you'll remember for the rest of your life?
Well, the biggest honor I've had was I got invited to play alongside my teacher's teacher, Ravi Shankar, on stage in a formal concert, and I accompanied him on the tambura, which is the traditional instrument that goes along with the sitar. So you can't get any higher than that.
One final question. Where do you see yourself and this music in the future?
Well, I'm on kind of an educational campaign right now, in the sense that I'd like people to realize that this kind of music is there to help balance your soul. And there's certain kinds of music that are out there that has the opposite effect. And, not in the sense that I want to sell a lot of music and have, the spirit in so much music today is how much can I sell, how much money can I make, and this music is the exact opposite of that. And I want to teach people that there's music that feeds your soul, and it's a vibration that you can take into your life and kind of heal yourself from all the negative vibrations that are happening today. And so really what I want to do is teach about that and make it accessible to people. I'll be putting a lot of free music on my website. I'd rather give it away, although you're allowed to make a donation if you come and see me there.
Okay.
The gentleman sitting next to me, whose name is James Cubby, and for the first 10 years that I knew him, I didn't know he had a first name because I always just called him Cubby.
Everybody does.
So that was a surprise. So what should I call you now, James or Cubby?
Whatever you want. But actually, all my friends call me Cubby, so call me Cubby.
Okay. Cubby is one of the best photographers on South Beach. And he's not just a photographer, he's also a journalist and has been covering South Beach since what year?
1995.
Well, let me ask you, what made you come to South Beach?
The art and the whole bohemian lifestyle. I visited South Beach several times before I actually moved here, and when I visited, Lincoln Road was like filled with art galleries, and it was very more arts related than it is now, and it was just a very bohemian feeling that I thought I want to come here and become a part of the art scene. And you know, I came down with DJs and friends, and finally I moved here.
Did South Beach live up to what you thought it would be, you know, just based on your visits?
Actually, South Beach exceeded what I thought would happen. I mean, you know, a lot of the art scene had disappeared at that time, but the nightlife was thriving then. And I got involved in the whole nightlife scene, and actually the nights became alive. And actually that's kind of what my book is about, South Beach Star. It's centered in the whole nightlife scene of the mid-90s, because that's when the nights were really alive, and everybody was part of the community, and it was celebrities, and it was all happening then. And it was very exciting to be here then.
In the 90s, there were a couple of very unique entrepreneurs down here that gave themselves self-proclaimed titles. They were Mr. Entertainment, Mr. Nightlife, and they had a little niche where they used to throw parties for very specific, very upscale parties for very specific people. I never went to them, but I heard a lot about them. Is that discussed in your book?
There are actually I've talked about some of the people that like gave themselves titles, and you know, I talked about this one person, and a lot of that is talked about, yeah, because actually my book is fiction, but there's a lot of reality there. There's pages of a column that are put in throughout the book, and it mixes actually excerpts from my real column at that time that are put in. So a lot of real people are mentioned in the book, as well as mixed with the fictional characters.
I remember your column, and it was really juicy and interesting, and had a lot of gossip in it. And
well, it's there. Yeah,
that would be great. By the way, the name of the book, and let me do what everybody else does when they have an author on, is called South Beach Star. And move it this way. I'm getting directions from Dina. What?
Move your finger. You're covering Cubby's name.
Do we got it? Do we have it now?
You got it. No, higher.
Higher?
You got it.
Okay, that was Cecil B., the steward over there, giving us all of this direction. And this is the book, and it's being published by...
It's Gramercy Park Press, and it's out online, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. You can buy it locally at Books and Books South Beach. But people ask about the title South Beach Star, and I would say, well, everybody in South Beach wants to be a star. It has two double meanings, but in the book, there's the main character is a nightlife writer who writes for this weekly tabloid called South Beach Star.
I started sort of looking through this, and I read a little bit, and if the writing holds up, you got a great story there.
Well, thank you. And I think it would make a great movie or a great series as well, because all the chapters kind of stand on their own, so it would be an interesting series. But I have a lot more stories, so who knows what else will come out.
You live on South Beach, and everybody in the world passes through here, and you never know when the right producer looking for the right property is going to have his picture taken by you, and he may turn to you and say, you got anything in writing that I could produce? You never know.
That has a nice sound to it. South Beach Star, the movie.
Joining us this morning is Carlo Harris, who has a very unique event coming up on Miami Beach. It's called the Convergence of the Arts, and it's going to be what might turn out the largest international internet auction in the world. Am I exaggerating here?
Maybe a little, but I think you're quite close to the money. I think for the first time, Miami Beach has seen a lot of shows, Stewie, and I think you know, with the kind of magnitude of artists and the brand names of artists that we have there, from Warhol to Dali to to Kaufman and Vesselman, Brito, Goddard, all these big name stars bringing their prime works in there, either through the owners directly or through the artists themselves. This being web streamed to about 2 million viewers through Proxybid. I think it's going to be something that the city's never seen, and it's quite exciting, you know.
Well, if we can just take a step back, and could you explain how an auction works for people that have never been to one or seen one?
Sure. So I think the big thing is for those who've never been to an auction before, it's very addictive. I got to warn you on that one. Once you go into the auction action and you get carried away with all the fun, you always want to go back for more. But it's actually less intimidating than you might think. Once you've gone to 1 or 2 shows, just to go and watch, it's the best way to collect, simply because you're in control. As a buyer, you can go and bid when you want, don't want. You can get all the information beforehand, and you can also enjoy all the catalog and showing beforehand. Whereas, before, and then of course, the buyers are dictating the price point, which is the great point of auction. So I think, on that side is quite exciting. Then, of course, from an auction point of view, you normally start at a lower opening bids than you normally would start in a retail setting, around the world. And that, again, is a great bargain and great benefit as well.
Our audience would like to know a little bit about how you became an auctioneer, because that's not something that everybody, does. They don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to be an auctioneer.
It's true that. Actually, I had a problem when I was younger. I had too much energy, Stuart, so I was always running around like a little kid with, we never sit still. Had my fair share of sports as well, and even that, my parents would put me into more sports that I possibly can, and to kind of calm me down. That didn't work either. I also spoke at a tremendous speed and pace, and people couldn't slow me down. So, I guess the natural progression from that, after years in technology, and then, getting to love collectible things and business, within advertising and fashion and all the things, around the world, kind of just with the speed and pace of my mind, just kind of progressed, where I actually got paid to talk fast instead of being told to speak slowly. So it's worked out for the good there.
It sounds that way. I have a question. Are you talking in slow motion now, or in
hyper slow motion? I'm really trying to, slow down here.
Well, I think you're doing a good job, because I was able to catch every word that you said.
You did? Wow. That's amazing. So, normally I have to stop myself about 10 times a day just to get to the point, But during the auction, it doesn't really matter what I say. It matters what numbers I hit.
Yeah.
And the rest is just filling words. And, that's what it's about. Right in the beginning of the auction, I tell people, listen, if you like it, you like the price, put your hand up. As simple as that. Because you try to listen to what we're going to say, you ain't going to get it.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. But before we say goodbye, I'd like everybody to be aware that if you go to our website on the left-hand side of this page, which is Syndicated South Beach, and you go to interviews, you'll have an opportunity to see the complete interview with Steve Mikies. Also, we are making arrangements to cover the auction that Carlo Harris is having on the 20th live, and it'll be on syndicatednews.net's front page. So stay tuned. And also, I want to invite you back for our next episode, which will be completely different than this episode or the other episodes, but it will have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So this is Stuart
and Dina Stewart
saying so long till the next time.